Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I love sharing stories about life, work, and those moments that make you feel like you just won at life. Today I've got a story that's been burning in my mind for years. A moment so satisfying, it's practically cinematic. This is a story of how I turned the tables on a coworker who underestimated me. And trust me, you're gonna want to stick around for this one. Hit that like button if you love a good comeback story, and let's dive in. Let's set the scene. A few years ago, I was working at a tech startup in San Francisco. It was one of those companies where everyone's young, ambitious, and secretly competing to be the CEO's favorite. The office was all open plan with ping pong tables and free kombucha on tap. But don't let that fool you. Underneath the chill vibe, it was a pressure cooker. I was a product manager, fresh out of grad school, and I'd landed this job after grinding through internships and late-night coding sessions. I was proud to be there, but I was also the new kid on the block, still proving myself. Now let me introduce you to Derek. Derek was the kind of guy who wore his confidence like a tailored suit. He was a senior product manager, a few years older than me, with a knack for charming everyone in the room, especially the higher-ups. He had this way of speaking that made you feel like he was doing you a favor just by talking to you. But behind the charm, there was something else. Derek didn't like sharing the spotlight. If you had an idea, he'd find a way to make it sound like it was his. If you got praise, he'd subtly undermine it with a backhanded compliment. You know the type. I'd been at the company for about 6 months, and I was starting to make waves. I'd led a project that got some serious traction, and the CEO, let's call her Miss Chen, was starting to notice me. Miss Chen was a legend in the tech world, sharp, no nonsense, and fluent in 3 languages, including Mandarin Chinese. She'd built this company from the ground up, and everyone respected her, including me. Getting on her radar was a big deal, and I wasn't about to let it slip. But Derek, he didn't like that one bit. He'd been the golden boy for years, and now here I was, this new guy, stealing a bit of his thunder. I could feel him sizing me up every time we were in a meeting together. He'd make these little comments like, "Oh, great idea, but maybe we should refine it a bit," or "That's ambitious, but is it realistic?" It was subtle, but it was there. I tried to brush it off. I wasn't here to make enemies. I was here to build a career. Then came the day of the big meeting. We were pitching a new feature to Miss Chen and a few other execs. This was my chance to shine. I'd spent weeks preparing, running numbers, mocking up designs, and practicing my presentation. I knew this feature could be a game changer for the company, and I was ready to sell it. Derek was presenting too, but his project was smaller, more of an incremental update. I could tell he wasn't thrilled about sharing the stage with me, but I figured, hey, we're all on the same team, right? The meeting was in the main conference room, all glass and chrome with the view of the San Francisco skyline. The execs were seated around a long table, laptops open, coffee cups in hand. Miss Chen was at the head, her sharp eyes scanning the room like she could see through everyone's intentions. I was nervous, but the good kind of nervous, the kind that makes you feel alive. I was ready. Derek went first. His presentation was smooth, polished, exactly what you'd expect from a guy like him. He had the room nodding along, throwing in just enough jargon to sound impressive without losing anyone. When he finished, Ms. Chen gave him a curt nod and said, "Solid work, Derek. Let's see how this integrates with the broader strategy." It wasn't glowing praise, but it was enough to keep his ego intact. Then it was my turn. I stood up, clicked on my slides, and launched into my pitch. I explained the feature, how it would drive user engagement, how it aligned with market trends. I had data to back it up, user feedback, even a prototype. I was in the zone, fielding questions from the execs like I'd been doing this for years. Ms. Chen was leaning forward, asking me detailed questions about scalability and ROI. I could tell she was intrigued, and that felt like a win. But as I wrapped up, I caught Derek out of the corner of my eye. He was leaning back in his chair, arms crossed, with this little smirk on his face. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe he was just bored. But then, as I sat down, he leaned over to Miss Chen and started speaking in Mandarin. Now, here's the thing. I speak Mandarin. I studied it in college, spent a semester abroad in Beijing, and kept up with it over the years. It wasn't something I advertised at work. Nobody had asked, and I didn't see the need to bring it up. But I was fluent, and I could understand every word Derek was saying. And what he was saying? It wasn't pretty. He was speaking in a low, casual tone, like he was just making small talk, but his words were sharp. He told Miss Chen that my presentation was overly optimistic and that I was probably exaggerating the numbers to look good. He said I was green and didn't have the experience to pull off a project like this. He even threw in a jab about how I was trying too hard to impress and that my ideas were flashy but impractical. All of this right in front of me, assuming I couldn't understand a single word. I felt my face get hot. My heart was pounding, not just from anger, but from the sheer audacity. This guy was sitting there, smiling, mocking me to the CEO, thinking he could get away with it because he was speaking a language he assumed I didn't know. The room was quiet, the other execs oblivious, sipping their coffee, checking their emails. Ms. Chen was listening to Derek, her face unreadable, but I could tell she was taking it in. For a split second, I thought about staying quiet. Maybe it was safer to let it slide, keep the peace, not make a scene. But then I looked at Derek's smug face, and something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let him undermine me like that. Not today. I cleared my throat, leaned forward, and said in perfect Mandarin, "I'm sorry, Derek, but I couldn't help overhearing. Would you mind repeating what you just said? I'd love to address your concerns directly." The room went dead silent. Derek's face froze. Froze, like someone had hit pause on his entire existence. His mouth was slightly open, his eyes wide like he'd just seen a ghost. Miss Chen raised her eyebrow, her lips twitching like she was trying not to laugh. The other execs looked up from their laptops, confused, sensing something big was happening, but not quite sure what it was. I kept going, still in Mandarin, calm but firm. "You mentioned something about my numbers being exaggerated. I'd be happy to walk you through the data again. And as for my experience, I think my track record speaks for itself. But if you have specific feedback, I'm all ears." Derek was speechless. He stammered, his face turning red, trying to backpedal. I didn't mean it like that," he said, switching back to English, his voice shaky. I was just discussing some concerns, constructively." Miss Chen wasn't having it. She turned to him, her voice cool and measured, and said, "Derek, if you have concerns, you can share them openly. No need for side conversations." Then she looked at me, and there was this glint in her eye, like she was impressed, but not surprised. She said, "Let's move on. I'd like to hear more about your implementation plan." That moment, it was electric. I felt like I'd just won a boxing match without throwing a single punch. Derek didn't say another word for the rest of the meeting. He just sat there, staring at his laptop, probably wishing he could disappear. I went on to answer Miss Chen's questions, diving into the details of my plan, and by the end of the meeting, she gave me the green light to move forward with the project. It was one of the best moments of my career. But the story doesn't end there. After the meeting, word spread fast. People in the office started whispering about how I called Derek out in Mandarin. Someone even nicknamed me the Silent Dragon, which, I'll be honest, I kind of loved. Derek, on the other hand, lost a bit of his shine. He was still charming, still good at his job, but he wasn't untouchable anymore. People started noticing his little jabs, his subtle power plays, and they weren't as impressed as they used to be. Looking back, that moment wasn't just about shutting Derek down. It was about standing up for myself, about proving that I belonged. I'd spent so much time in that job feeling like I had to earn my place, like I had to prove I was good enough. But in that conference room, I realized I didn't need anyone's permission to shine. I'd done the work, I had the skills, and when it came down to it, I had the courage to speak up. And here's the thing. Derek never tried to pull anything like that again. We worked together for another year, and he was always polite, maybe even a little cautious around me. I didn't hold a grudge. Life's too short for that. But I think he learned something that day. Don't underestimate people. You never know what they're capable of. So what's the takeaway? For me, it's about owning your strengths, even the ones you don't advertise. It's about staying calm under pressure and letting your actions speak louder than your words. And yeah, sometimes it's about enjoying those rare, perfect moments when you get to flip the script on someone who thought they had you figured out. Thanks for sticking with me through this story, guys. I hope it gave you a laugh, maybe even inspired you to stand up in your own way the next time someone tries to underestimate you. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss my next story. And let me know in the comments, have you ever had a moment where you turned the tables on someone who doubted you? I'd love to hear about it. Until next time, keep shining, keep speaking up, and never let anyone dim your light. I'll see you in the next video.